Hello, Squirrel Squad. It's early in the morning yet. I keep wanting to look at that clock. I gotta remember to change the battery. It's 8 bells, so you'll hear my watch go beep, 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 beep in a minute. Okay, let's make sure we're running. Got the volume up. Wuthering Heights, Chapter 6. Mr. Henley came home to the funeral, and a thing that amazed us and set the neighbors gossiping right and left, he brought a wife with him. What she was and where she was born, he never informed us. Probably she had neither money nor name to recommend her, or he would scarcely have kept the union from his father. She was not one that would have disturbed the house much on her own accord. Every object she saw the moment she crossed the threshold appeared to delight her, and every circumstance that took place about her except the preparing for the burial and the presence of the mourners. I thought she was half silly from her behavior while that went on. She ran into her chamber and made me come with her, though I should have been dressing the children, and there she sat shivering and clasping her hands and asking repeatedly, "Are they gone yet?" Then she began describing with hysterical emotion the effect it produced on her to see black. And I started and trembled, and at last fell a weeping. And when I asked what was, she failed doing that, I guess. She began describing it produced on her to see black, and started, not I started, and started trembled, and at last fell a weeping. And when I asked what was the matter, answered she didn't know, but she felt so afraid of dying. I imagined her as little likely to die as myself. She was rather thin, but young and fresh complexioned, and her eyes sparkled as bright as diamonds. I did remark, to be sure, that mounting the stairs made her breathe very quick, that the least sudden noise set her all a quiver, and that she coughed troublesomely at times. But I knew nothing of what these symptoms portended, and I had no impulse to sympathize with her. We don't, in general, take to foreigners here, Mr. Lockwood, unless they take to us first. Oh, she's talking to Mr. Lockwood. Young Earnshaw was altered considerably in the 3 years of his absence, and he had grown sparer and lost his color and spoke and dressed quite differently. And on the very day of his return, he told Joseph and me we must thenceforth quarter ourselves in the back kitchen and leave the house for him. Indeed, he would have carpeted and prepared a small spare room for a parlor, but his wife expressed such pleasure at the white floor and huge glowing fireplaces, at the pewter dishes and delf case and dog kennel, and the wide space there was to move about and where they usually sat, that he thought it unnecessary to her comfort, and so dropped the intention. She expressed pleasure, too, at finding a sister among her new acquaintance, and she prattled to Catherine and kissed her and ran about with her and gave her quantities of presents. At the beginning, her affection tired very soon, however, and when she grew peevish, Henley became tyrannical. A few words from her, evincing a dislike to Heathcliff, were enough to rouse in him all his old hatred of the boy. He drove him from the company to the servants, deprived him of the instructions of the curate, and insisted that he should labor out of doors instead, compelling him to do so as hard as any other lad on the farm. Heathcliff bore his degradation pretty well at first, because Cathy taught him what she had learned, and worked or played with him in the fields. They both promised fair to grow up as rude as savages, the young master being entirely negligent. how they behaved and what they did, so they kept clear of him. He would not even have seen after their going to church on Sundays, only Joseph. And the curate reprimanded his carelessness when they absented themselves, and that reminded him to order Heathcliff a flogging and Catherine a fast from dinner or supper. But it was one of their chief amusements to run away to the moors in the morning and remain there all day, and the after punishment grew a mere thing to laugh at. The curate might set as many chapters as he pleased for Catherine to get by heart, and Joseph might thrash Heathcliff till his arm ached. They forgot everything the minute they were together again, at least the minute they had contrived some naughty plan of revenge. And how many a time I've cried to myself to watch them growing more recklessly daily, and I, not daring to speak a syllable for fear of losing the small power I still retain over the unfriended creatures. Sorry. My reading's not very fluid. My dental glue's kind of making my mouth stick together, tongue stick on the roof of my mouth. Oh, these stupid messages getting in the way. One Sunday evening, it chanced that they were banished from one sitting room for making a noise and a light offense of the kind, and when I went to call them to supper, I could discover them nowhere. We searched the house above and below, and the yard and stables. They were invisible, and at last Henley, in a passion, told us to bolt the doors, and swore nobody should let them in that night. The household went to bed, and I too, anxious to lie down, opened my lattice and put my head out to hearken, though it rained, determined to admit them in spite of the prohibition, should they return. In a while I distinguished steps coming up the road, and in the light of a lantern glimmered through the gate. I threw a shawl over my head and ran to prevent them from waking Mr. Earnshaw by knocking. There was Heathcliff by himself. It gave me a start to see him alone. "Where's Miss Catherine?" I cried hurriedly. "No accident, I hope." "At Thrushcross Grange," he answered. "And I would have been there too, but they had not the manners to ask me to stay." "Well, you will catch it," I said. "You'll never be content until they've sent about your business. What in the world let you wandering to Thrushcross Grange?" "Let me get off my wet clothes and I'll tell you all about it, Nellie," he replied. I bid him beware of rousing the master, and while he undressed and I waited to put out the candle, he continued. "Kathy and I escaped from the wash house to have a ramble at liberty, and getting a glimpse of the Grange lights, we thought we would just go and see where the Hintons passed their Sunday evenings, standing shivering in corners while their father and mother sat eating and drinking and singing and laughing and burning their eyes out before the fire. Do you think they do? Or reading sermons and being catechized by their manservant and set to learn a column of scripture names? If they don't answer probably not," I responded. "Properly, if they don't answer properly. They are good children, no doubt, and don't deserve the treatment you receive for your bad company." Can't, Nellie," he said. "Nonsense." We ran from the top of the heights to the park, without stopping, Catherine completely beaten in the race because she was barefoot. You'll have to seek for her shoes in the bog tomorrow. We kept through a kitchen hedge, groped our way up the path, and planted ourselves on a public on a flower plot under the drawing room window. The light came from whence. They had not put up the shutters, and the curtains were only half closed. Both of us were able to see. We're only half closed. Both of us were able to look in by standing on the basement and clinging to the ledge. And we saw, it was beautiful, a splendid place, carpeted with crimson and crimson covered chairs and tables, and a pure white ceiling bordered by gold, a shower of glass drops hanging in silver chains from the center and shimmering with little soft tapers. Old Mr. and Mrs. Linton were not there. Edgar and his sisters, freezing. Sorry, that's making an ungodly noise, and it should stop in just a minute. Where was I? Had it entirely to themselves. Shouldn't they have been happy? We should have thought ourselves in heaven. And now, guess what your good children were doing? Isabella, I believe, she is 11, a year younger than Kathy, lay screaming at their father at the farther end of the room, shrieking as if witches were running red-hot needles into her. Edgar stood on the hearth, weeping silently, and in the middle of the table saw a little dog shaking its paw and yelping, which, from their mutual accusations, we understood that they had nearly pulled in two between them, the idiots. That was their pleasure. No quarrel who should hold a heap of warm hair, and each began to cry because both, after struggling to get in, refused to take it. We laughed outright at the petted things. We did despise them. When would you catch me wishing to have what Catherine wanted, or find us by ourselves seeking entertainment and yelling and seeking entertainment and yelling and sobbing and rolling on the ground, divided by the whole room? I'd not exchange for 1,000 lives my condition here for Edgar Linton's at Thrushcross Grange. Not if I might have the privilege of flinging Joseph off the highest gable and painting the house front with Henley's blood. Hush, hush, I interrupted. Still you've not told me, Heathcliff, how Catherine is left behind. I told you. We laughed, he answered. The Lintons heard us, and with one accord they shot like arrows to the door. There was silence, and then a cry. Oh, Mama, Mama, oh, Papa, oh, Mama, come here, oh, Papa, oh. They really did howl out something in that way. We made frightened noises to terrify them still more, and then we dropped off the ledge because somebody was drawing the bars, and we felt we had better flee. I had Kathy by the hand and was urging her on when all at once she fell down. Run, Heathcliff, run, she whispered. They have let the bulldog loose, and he holds me. The devil had seized her ankle, Nellie. I heard his abominable snorting. She did not yell out, nor she would have scorned to do it if she had been spitted on the horns of a mad cow. I did, though. I vociferated curses enough to annihilate any fiend in Christendom, and I got a stone and thrust it between his jaws and tried with all my might. To cram it down his throat. A beast. Excuse me. Ooh, it's sleepy again. A beast of a servant came up with the lantern at last, shouting, "Keep fast, Skulker, keep fast." He changed his note, however, when he saw Skulker's game. The dog was throttled The dog was throttled off, his huge purple tongue hanging half a foot out of his mouth, and his pendant lips streaming with bloody slaver. The man took Kathy up. She was sick, not from fear, I'm certain, but from pain. He carried her in. I followed. Lower. I followed, grumbling execrations and vengeance. What pray, Robert? Helloed Linton from the entrance. Skulker has caught a little girl, sir, he replied, and there's a lad here, he added, making a clutch at me, and who looks and out and outer. I'm gonna have to stop there. Oh, I hate that I just cannot get in the groove of reading this. I should always read it once through myself and then read it. Maybe that would help. Or listen to it on Audible. That would help. Okay, we'll see you later. See you tomorrow. No live today since it's Thursday. Gotta go get my B12 shot this afternoon. Not a big deal. Just run in to the doctor's office where I hope nobody is. I have my mask, a little mask that the post lady gave me on. I had no gloves or anything, but it'll be alright. Hopefully they won't keep me waiting long. I'll just get the shot and take off. So I will be in sharing Zoom today for sure. I don't know exactly what time I'll go in or how long I'll stay, but I'll be in and out like I usually do. And I'll be back also later to read Anne of Green Gables, but you see these eyes? I'm going to go to the chair and take a little nap first. Be sweet, don't be ugly. See you tomorrow with the rest of this chapter. Bye.